Hey, welcome back to a brand new episode of Throwback Thursday. And when I say brand new, I mean this is the first one I've done in years. That's right. The previous ones I stated before were done a long time ago. Actually, I think they were done at the end of season 6. But for right now, let's talk about this episode called Hounded. This episode opens up with Merle walking with a couple of guys from Woodbury in the woods looking for Michonne because they let Michonne go. Now, I don't understand how technically they waited a whole night because they let her go out late in the day. It was still light out, right? Michonne left. And then Merle was part of the fucking fight at the end of the last episode, you know? And then the next day, him and these groups are looking for Michonne. I mean, she could have got really far if she found the car. I mean, it doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. But whatever. So they're looking for Michonne in the woods, and all of a sudden they come across a bunch of body parts from walkers. And Merle's like, it has to mean something. And then this guy in the back says, go back. And he goes, if you look, the body parts say go, and then there's a back of a walker. So then he starts laughing, and he says, she sent us a walkergram, y'all. I thought that was funny. And then he starts yelling, goes, come on, Michonne, what do you think's gonna happen? You're gonna just jump out and take out all of us with that little, what is it? I forgot what he calls it. So Michonne jumps down and she does exactly that. She just chops them up and kills 2 of them. Merle shoots her in the leg. She runs off. Merle chases after her. And one of the younger guys that was still alive or, you know, didn't get touched by Michonne, he's just nervous and scares his first time out. He's just standing there shocked by what he just saw. And Merle chases her down, but all of a sudden she disappears. And he goes, are we having fun yet? And then the intro happens, which was a cool way to start off. That's a cool little teaser for the episode. So after the intro, the show starts out with Rick on the phone again. And we're going to get this for this whole episode, well, almost the entire time, talking to voices that he hears. They're all voices from season 1 and 2, people that he already encountered and died. I'm surprised they didn't get Morgan to come back and do a voice. They got the guy from the camp that died. They got Andrea's sister to come back and do a voice. You know, so they got people to come back and do voices. But, you know, I'm really surprised they didn't get Lenny James to come back to do that voice because, you know, but then again, Rick would know it right away, right? When he'd be like, Morgan? Because, you know, they used to talk on, well, they didn't even talk on the walkie. He only had that 24-hour experience with Morgan. But anyway, yeah, so Rick is listening to this guy talking to him, telling him, he's asking this girl, is it safe where you are? And she goes, yes, it's safe, and blah, blah, blah. And they start asking questions, and she hangs up on him, and Rick goes crazy. And this entire time when Rick losing his mind, technically, because of the death of Lori, is because he never got the closure he needed with her, because he was still being an asshole to her, because she was a fucking bitch for like 2 seasons. So for a few months, he's been just like giving her the cold treatment. And then now she's dead. And he's like, oh shit. Like she really was important to me. I did love her. She was the wife of my child. And like, I never got to tell her I'm sorry. I should have protected her. Like he would have just liked to have her around to still take care of the kids and everything, but not be with her. Like, or just still be able to be the guy that protects her and provides for her food and shelter and these things, but not having that romantic relationship until he finally forgave her. And then he feels guilty because he could have forgiven her a long time ago and he didn't. Anyway, so Rick actually emerges out to the group finally after, you know, everyone's quiet and, you know, Daryl's looking at Carl because he knows Carl had to put down his mom and he just lost his mother and there's a lot that kid's dealing with and now his father's gone fucking crazy. And everyone's looking for a leader because Rick is their leader. You know, there was no more negotiating. Remember, like, it's not a democracy anymore. That last line in season 2, like, he's in charge, is his way or no way, whatever. So they all looked at Rick, and Rick has provided for them for the most part, and now found them this place, but now he's just gone fucking crazy. So Rick comes out, seems somewhat normal, says he just came to check on Carl, and they ask him how many walked, like, he said he cleared out the tunnels where the walkers were, you know, were Lori, the boiler room. And they said, how many was it? He goes, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 2. And they're just like, what the fuck? Like a 2 is like, because the guy going to clear them out. And then he asked if they have ammo and guns. They just want to make sure, I mean, if they have ammo and weapons or whatever to make sure that they're okay. You know, they said, yeah, but we need more ammo. and Glenn says, Lord, Maggie and me were going to make a run later because, you know, we need more shit. We found a phone book with a bunch of addresses of places we could hit up. We want to, also the baby needs more food because, you know, so they go, Rick goes, okay. And Rick says, I got to clear out I'm going to clear out the bodies. And they said, we could do that. And he's just, and goes, no, like, you don't have to do that. We could do it. And Rick's like, no, I have to. Like, it's his responsibility because, you know, whatever. I feel like Rick also feels like he should have just killed those fucking prisoners. You know, even though now the two nice ones are there, but like, it probably feels like I should just kill all of them, and this wouldn't have happened. You know, but compared to the comics, shit, the comics was rough. I think it was Andrea's sisters, right? She had like two younger twin sisters or something like that. I think they were. Something happens to them by a fucking guy who was in jail, who's a serial killer and a pedo. So, you know, and that was like fucking disturbing as shit in the comics. Comics are really good. And we cut back to the woods, and Merle's talking to the kid who I forgot his name is called, something like in a Bronx Tale, where it's something like Cargulio, something like that. And he goes. Because he's all nervous and hyperventilating and everything, and Merle's like, listen, I need you. The other two are dead. She's wounded. She's on the run now. Like, she's hunting us, but we're also hunting her now. So let's go. I need your help. And he goes, now, what's your real name? And he goes, Cargulio. And he goes, I'm going to keep calling you Neil. Also, I love the way Merle says Michonne. She says Michonne, kind of like New Orleans, Louisiana, some like, I don't know. It just sounds, the way he says Michonne sounds really good. I like the way he says that. So now we go back to Woodbury, where the governor is talking to Andrea again. And Andrea is kind of like, not so much giving him the cold shoulder, but she's like watching the people in the town because this is some sort of normalcy she hasn't had in 7 months, right? Since the fall of the country or the world, she hasn't had a normal moment in her life, and she's seeing a town and kids talking and playing, and then the governor comes by and says, you can join them if you want, you know, you don't have to just watch. And then she says something snarky or whatever, and he goes, oh, still about like, kind of like still talking about the fight last night that she had such a problem with. And she goes, can I ask you a question? He goes, no. And then she starts walking away, and then he's like, you know, like, oh, I want to talk to you because I like you. So then she says, you know, basically like, oh, I don't like those fights. I think they're brutal, and I think the world has too much brutality in it already right now. And I'm like, come on, lady. I mean, throughout the time, there's always brutal moments and everywhere, and they still have time to watch football or soccer or basketball or boxing or MMA. So don't give me this. This is a ridiculous excuse, which later we'll find out why it's a ridiculous excuse. But she says, like, she wants to be a part of the town, but she wants to offer more. You know, that she's like, I'm a good shot. Let me do the wall because, you know, I could stay on the wall. I'm a good shot. I don't want to get rusty. You know, that's the whole season 2. She banged Shane just to learn how to do this, you know, to be, I'm surprised that she didn't try harder to regroup with Rick and them. I would assume that, you know, even though she was sick and whatever, Andrea would have really tried to get back to them in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. It seems like they really didn't try. Maybe that's Michonne, more so because of Michonne than because of Andrea. Maybe Andrea wanted to, but Michonne wasn't going to let her. So we cut back to Rick being in the boiler room, and he's just waiting by the phone, playing with the phone, and it rings. And then he answers the phone, and it's Jim now, and Jim's talking to him. And Jim asks him a bunch of questions. Well, Rick also asked questions. Like, well, the first thing Jim goes like, so you're the guy that she was talking to, that you want to come where we are, where it's safe? And he goes, yeah. So I don't even know technically what's going on with Rick right now, because this is a delusion, right? But everyone he's talking to has died. So is he trying to say like he wants to die and go with where they're safe? Nobody's been bit or anything because they're in heaven? Or is this a supernatural element, or is this just his mind going crazy? So that I don't understand. But Jim does ask him those two out of the 3 questions that later become a little thing between Rick when he encounters new people, which is, have you killed anybody? How many have you killed? And I think the third question he asks, not in this episode, Jim doesn't ask him this, but I can't remember because it's been so long. The third one is why, or something like that, or whatever it is, I forget. But I know there's 3 questions that Rick later on starts. He adopts from the 2 questions here, which was, did you kill anybody? How many did you kill? And he tells her, and I think he does say, he asks why or whatever. But anyway, so he tells him, yes, he killed 4 people. He breaks it down and he tells him why. And then the last one who lost who he was, which Jim said earlier, like nobody's gone crazy, and then so here he goes, why'd you kill that person? And he wasn't himself anymore. He goes, what does that mean? And he said, well, this, that, whatever the fuck. He basically, she's talking about Shane. So I don't know. And then he asks him, how'd you lose your wife? And Rick's like, how'd you know I lost my wife? He goes, you have a son and a baby. So how'd you lose your wife? You didn't mention your wife, so you must have lost her. But that's more like what the fuck? This is not real. And so he goes, I don't want to talk about that. So then the guy hangs up. So then Rick goes crazy. So like they're trying to get Rick to acknowledge what happened. Like come out, like let it out. So, then we cut back to Woodbury again, going back and forth between, stories, which later on will be, this is better in a way, because later on we'll just stay with one fucking character for a whole episode and then cut back. That was the worst. But right now it's still good, even though we're cutting back and forth because we have 2 different storylines going on, an A and a B story. But anyway, so we cut back to Andrea. She's on the wall. She's talking to a girl who's pretending to be a badass, but she's a fucking loser. She's been in Woodbury this entire time. She's never been out in the open. I guess this girl's kind of like going to be later on. Remember there's a girl when the governor gets with a girl later, and then her sister's in the house. It's like a cop or something. Remember that in an apartment? And then, the governor rebuilds his shit again. But anyway, that kind of, I guess she's like hurt, but that girl was a cop, but naive. And this one's naive and just a fraud. Like she's a phony. She hasn't done shit. She's been sheltered. Even at the apocalypse, she's been sheltered. And she's nervous as shit when she tries to shoot a walker. She's missing like 100 times. And Andrea's like, I got this. And she jumps down. She's like, bam. And she kills him. And then the girl's like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to go over the wall. And then Andrea's looking like, oh, these people, like I can't fit in. Like I want to fit in, but I can't. Like I'm still different. Like what I like to do, and I want to contribute and help this place. But I think Andrea could have been, and Shane too, could have been great soldiers for fucking the governor. But anyway, then we cut back to Rick in the fucking boiler room again. But this time Herschel walks down, and Herschel's trying to console Rick or get through Rick. Like you know, your son needs you. We need you. Like you saved us, you helped us, and everything. And Lori loved you. She wasn't mad at you. She forgave you. She knew all these things. And Rick goes, I got a phone call. And Herschel's like, what? So Herschel just kind of looks at Rick, and he knows that Rick is not there right now. Like Rick hasn't eaten. He's heat deprived. All this shit happened, and he just lost his wife. So he knows that there's something, like Rick is not currently Rick. Like this is not Rick, and he's delusional right now. Oh, then we go to story C. So it's an A, B, and C story. I forgot all about that, which is Merle in the woods looking for Michonne. So we cut back over there, and all of a sudden Michonne pops out again, but this time we get a cool scene because Michonne pops up, gets the upper hand, slices Cugilio in the stomach. All right, so Cugilio falls back. She goes to hit fucking Merle. Merle blocks it with his fucking cool hand and a knife, and then she throws, and then basically throws her knife, but loses one of his. And then as she goes, lunges for it, or no, then she drops down, kicks him in the balls. He bends down and she punches him in the face, breaks his nose or cuts him in the face, whatever the hell. And then these walkers attack. So then they have to fight off the walkers. Michonne cuts one of the walkers' stomach, and all the guts fall on top of her, and it looks like blood goes in her mouth. She spits it all out. She should be fucked, but we know this is not how it works here. It doesn't matter as long as you die. I guess, yeah, whatever. So then Cugilio saves Merle's life, and then as they turn around, they look around, Michonne is gone. Then we cut back to the prison, and they try to clear out the cell block where Carol disappeared to, or they think she died. They didn't find her body. They saw T-Dog, but they didn't find her. And there's a sign of like a door is moving, and they're like, nah, just leave it alone. But Daryl knows since the beginning of the episode that something's not right with Carl. So he starts talking about how he lost his mom to try to bond with him and connect with him, because also his dad's not around really consoling him right now, which is what the little kid fucking needs. But you know, so Daryl starts telling about what happened to his mom when he was young. And one day there was like basically his mom fell asleep smoking a cigarette and set the house on fire, and there was nothing left. They didn't even find the mother. So he kind of was like an orphan. He goes, you know, sometimes I feel like she didn't even die, that she just disappeared. And then Carl's like, I killed my mother. She was losing blood. Like, you know, she gave birth. She was dying. I killed her, you know? So he's like, I know my mom's gone. Like this, she's dead. Like, I'm sorry about your mom. He tells Daryl, like, you have no idea what I'm going through. I understand, but I killed my mom. Like, I know she's dead. And he goes, I'm sorry about yours too. And I was like, oh, Carl has such potential, and they just dropped the fucking ball on him. Actually, so then we cut back to Woodbury, and Andrea goes to the governor's room or his apartment or his loft, whatever it is, and he calls her in because you're told you weren't supposed to go over the wall. We don't do that. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And she's like, basically like, I don't think I really fit here. Oh, he says you don't fit. The wall's not for you. And he's just like, basically like. She's anyway. She whatever. I forget exactly what was said at this time, except that basically she comes out and she goes, "I actually like the fights. I was scared because I like the fights because it made me forget that this is what's happening outside of here. It took me away from the threat that's outside. Basically, I'm enjoying something that I shouldn't be, because these are things that we should be worried about because they are a potential threat to us, and now we're using them as toys, and we're not seeing the big picture." Then we cut back to the woods with Merle and Cujulio, and Merle's like, I'm not looking for this bitch no more. Like, I'm done. Like, let's go. We're going home. And all of a sudden, Cujulio's got balls now. He's like, no. Like, I guess after killing that walker, or being like, after all this, he's like, no, they killed 2 of our guys. We're going after them. You said this, and he goes, she's as good as dead. She's injured. She's on the run. Like, she ain't gonna make it. Don't worry about it. He goes, what are we gonna tell the governor? Oh, on top of that, he also killed the other guys because they got bit earlier. So I don't know if that was now or earlier, whatever the fuck. So I think it was earlier. I don't think it was now. But so Cujulio's like, no, I'm gonna tell the governor if we go. He goes, you know what? You're right. We have to. How do you say it? What did they get? Cujulio. And then Merle fucking kills him because he's like, motherfucker, I'm not going out there. I'm not fucking gonna die because you want to be a badass all of a sudden. I have to carry your ass most of the time. Yeah, which is kind of fucked up too. How do you not disagree with him? I ain't gonna look for this bitch. I got a broken nose. My balls hurt. I got one arm. We're getting overrun by zombies. She's trying to lure us into a fucking trap. And then it's just you and me? No. Fuck it. We just tell her she's dead. She's never gonna come back now. Then we cut back to Michonne in a different part of the woods where Merle said that she's headed to the red zone. I guess that's where a lot of zombies are gathered, or a horde or whatever. And a couple of walkers approach her, and she gets ready to, fight them, but they walk right by her because the walker guts fell on top of her. So now she realized that, because for her, she just had the 2 walkers before on the chains. They kind of like protected her because they just smelled the walkers or something. They really couldn't smell her, or they noticed that if 2 walkers are walking by her that, I don't know, they just somehow concealed her with the 2 walkers before. But now with the blood, she realizes that all she needs to work blood guts, and it conceals her. So then we cut back to the boiler room again. Yes, we're always in the boiler room this episode with Rick. I guess this is the way they saved money on certain locations. So we're in the boiler room, and Rick gets another phone call, and this time it's Jackie on the other end. So I believe first was Andrea's sister, second was Jim, third was Jackie. Jackie was the other black character on season 1 that ended up staying at the CDC, when it blew up. And she stood there because and I always wondered, that in later episodes to come, like, was she better off doing that? Was that better than trying to survive? I don't know. Anyway, he goes, you didn't want Jackie's other phone, she goes, you didn't want to tell him about your wife? And he goes, oh, I just lost her, but if that'll help us get in, I'll talk about it. He goes, you better make it good, Rick. And he goes, how do you know my name? And then the phone ends. the conversation ends, and then he starts like thinking like, what the fuck? And then we cut to Michonne again. Now she's in town, and all of a sudden a car drives by, and she's being sneaky and listening and watching because, you know, she don't know who these people are. And it's Glenn and Maggie, and they're looking for supplies and stuff. And then you see how much these two love each other and how great they were for television. So Michonne's watching Glenn and Maggie. They have a cute little moment, and Glenn goes into a store, and Maggie's like, go get that duck. And she's like, what? So because the baby, you don't want to get toys for the baby because the baby's going to be in a prison, even though it's very small. It's not going to be playing with anything for a very long time. So they didn't need to waste time with the duck. So, yeah, they're scavenging for stuff. And then we cut to Woodbury again, and we're continuing the fucking storyline, the supposed love story between Andrea and the governor. So, basically, he tells her, like, you know, you got to live in the moment, you know, live now. Like, that's how the governor sees things, and he likes living in the moment. And he tells her, you don't have to be ashamed for liking the fights or liking to be in the fights, like, or liking, you know, because he does. He likes it. So then she looks at him, and then, you know, she basically tells him, like, come on, fucker, let's go. Like, let's make a move, because I'm giving you the green light. I'm horny, and let's go. And he's like, oh, great. So then we cut back to the little town where Glenn and Maggie are, and Merle shows up. And Merle goes, where are you fine people going? And he sees Glenn, and he's like, holy crap. And he asks, is my brother alive? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, take me to him. And he goes, whoa. We'll tell him you're here, and he'll come here. And Merle starts acting, you know, like Merle. And he's like, no, calm down, whatever. And then Merle gets pissed, and he's like, they're not going to take me. I'm going to fucking go over there. And Merle shoots the fucking, I don't know, makes a diversion. But I have to say, Maggie, what the fuck, dude? Like, if you've been on the road and you were a badass with these people, although I don't remember them showing her being a badass in the beginning of episode 1 of season 3. I think it was Carl, Rick, Daryl, and T-Dog that were the badasses. So they didn't show Maggie as a badass back then. But, I mean, we saw her as a badass in the fucking prison. So what the fuck? She like scurries away, drops the gun. I mean, Jesus Christ. If we gotta be realistic, both of them would have shot this fucker in 2 seconds. As soon as he shot the fucking, the window or whatever, they would have just shot him. I don't know. I feel like they would have. The normal ones, I don't know. But then again, they kind of made it like, oh, you know, Glenn wanted to give those guys a chance in the prison. Glenn wants to give people a chance. He knows what they did to Merle was bad, but, you know, they went looking for Merle, whatever the fuck. So I could see, but Maggie dropping the gun after she shot and didn't shoot at them, I don't know. I don't see why Maggie would have dropped the gun. So anyway, he gets the upper hand, tells them drive. So they're driving, but they're not going to the prison. I don't know why. That just makes no sense, but whatever. Like, just for the story. They're going back to Woodbury. What? No. Oh, Jesus. If I was the governor, I'd be real pissed. Anyway. We cut back to the prison, and the phone rings, and Rick answers it, and it's Lori. And Rick realizes that it's Lori, and he breaks down. Well, because he doesn't realize, technically. He goes, Lori tells him, like, yeah, everyone you talk to, you know, you talk to Amy, you talk to fucking Jim, you talk to Jackie, and now me. Everyone you talk to is dead, you know? And she goes, what happened, Rick? And he breaks down, starts crying. He goes, I loved you. You know, I couldn't fix it. I couldn't fix it and bring us back together, but I loved you. I love you. Like, I wanted just to set everything straight first and build everything up for you, and then, you know, then we could work on each other. But I wanted to secure everything for you, for the baby, for you, and to show you what I could do for you. And then, you know, I don't know. He cries, and then the phone disconnects, because basically she says, like, listen, you got our son and you got our daughter now. Like, you know, and you got those people you got to take care of. Like, you're like, let's tell him, like, wake up, snap out of this. You got to move on. And Rick just drops the phone, starts crying. And then we cut to the governor banging a beautiful, beautiful Andrea. I mean, I might think she's a fucking idiot and a bitch, and she's annoying. And I don't know if it's this episode, this season. Yeah, I think it's this season where she was real annoying. Although I think I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for people that don't know. But anyway, yeah, they're banging. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and it's Merle. And he tells him that you know, the mission went sideways. Michonne killed all of them, but he got away. And then, you know, to give the governor tells him, give them, like, you know, great funeral service and all this bullshit. And then Merle goes, oh, I found something else. This Asian boy and this girl that were held up at the Atlanta camp. Well, he should have just said the boy because he wasn't with Maggie. But I guess he says, you know, him and his girlfriend. And the governor says, does Andrea know them? And he goes, uh-huh. And then it goes, for the looks of it, they must be held up pretty good. I'll find out where. But what the fuck is this for? Why is the governor going along with this? If they know Andrea, he knows Andrea's a good person. He's been fucking her now. And now these two, what the fuck do they need to know? This is beginnings of, you know, I don't know. Look, I don't get the theory behind this or the logic behind kidnapping them when they know where your brother is. I mean, what the fuck? Are you gonna go rescue your brother like he's a prisoner or he's not a prisoner? Like, what the fuck are you doing? It makes no sense. Anyway, we cut back after this. We cut back to the prison, and Rick is out and about, and he walks over and sees Herschel holding his baby that has to be about 5 months old. That's not a fucking newborn. They'd have to do that in film because they can't actually use a newborn. Newborns are mad tiny. But this baby's pretty big already. So anyway, he sees the newborn and he holds her, and then we cut to Daryl in the tombs or wherever else they were, where that door keeps opening that he didn't want the other prisoner, who's now part of the group kind of, to open the door. He's like, leave it. And it keeps moving because they also found earlier, I missed the part, I probably skipped by that. They found Carol's knife in a walker. So I missed that part somewhere earlier. But anyway, so they found that. So then they're like, oh shit, you know, this must be the guy that killed her. So Daryl kind of knows that she's probably there in that one that he did not check, that she's probably there dead or whatever. And he's thinking that that's maybe her, that the door is moving because she's a walker. So it's moving and moving. Finally, he's like, fuck it. He goes in, and all of a sudden, Carol's alive. She's not dead. She's there. She looks up at him, and he looks down at her, and he picks her up. Now, remember, this is where Daryl and Carol came. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, that they never made this happen. Something happened. They must not really like each other in real life, or something. They must not get along, or something. I mean, they have to get along in real life. They must not get along, like, I don't know. But like, I don't know. Later in later seasons, he looked at her as like a mother. And I would guess you would assume that earlier on too, kind of, though. Not necessarily season 2. He kind of looks at her like a mom. Anyway, this review's gone way too fucking long. Way too long so far. So Rick walks out in the open in the, you know, outdoors with the baby and Carl and Herschel and Beth. And all of a sudden he sees in the distance something. He gives the baby to, I think, Herschel or somebody, Beth maybe. And he starts walking down, and he sees Michonne standing there, covered in blood and guts, holding a fucking, the basket full of baby stuff. So that's how the episode ends. And I was like, oh shit, she's gonna go. But, you know, it's not gonna go very well, very fast. So it takes a while for it to get better for that hurt, because Michonne doesn't trust these people. But some reason she trusts them, and I don't know. Some reason she trusts them enough to go bring the baby shit over there. That doesn't make sense. She doesn't trust anybody. I don't know. Or maybe also to tell them, hey, listen, your boy, and maybe just to get these people to help her, you know? But at the same time, she has to be prepared to think that they're going to think is a trap. Anyway, that was this episode, Hounded, and a lot happened in this episode. And this episode is a good episode. Better than the last one. A lot of stuff happens. There's a lot of boring parts in it, too. But more stuff happens. The story progresses, you know? So, not bad. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.